Welcome to the Ducks on the Pond podcast. Well, we've made it. It's the fifth episode. Today we are missing one of the regulars. Justin is out sick today. He'll be back with us next week. We do have both Charlie and Phil here today. Charlie, what's been going on with you lately?
Not much. Just getting ready for the World Baseball Classic. Uh, been waiting for some free agency news, but it's getting pretty stale on that front too. So yeah, just waiting for baseball.
Slim Pickens. I think Greinke's about all that's left, and some are saying he's going to probably go back to the Royals if that even happens, because that's looking
Yeah.
less likely too. Phil, how about you? What are you up to?
Not a thing. Just waiting for pitchers and catchers to report.
So soon. It's always like a nice little birthday gift I give to myself every year. Is that's when I know when baseball's starting. So, all right, we'll jump right into it. My topic for this week is going to be, and what is your and what in your opinion is the greatest season all time by a player? Let's start off with Charlie on this one and find out who he thinks had the best season ever.
So I picked a pitcher and a hitter for mine. So I'll start off with Old Hoss Radbourn. I think had the greatest single season as a pitcher. Set an MLB record with 60 wins in a single season. That record is still here today. Had a 1.38 ERA while playing 75 games. He started 73 games and had 73 complete games, pitched 678 innings with 441 strikeouts, all while maintaining a .92 whip. I mean, obviously it was a different era, but that's still crazy. I mean, pitching 75 games, I mean, you're lucky to get 30 games out of most pitchers nowadays. So, I don't know. In my opinion, that was just the single greatest season a pitcher has ever pitched. In terms of hitters, I put Roger Hornsby, his 1922 season, the first ever Triple Crown. He batted .401 with a .459 on base percentage with 42 home runs and 152 RBIs. His OPS plus that season was 207 for the St. Louis Cardinals that year. So those are my two picks.
Phil, what do you think? And what are your two? I mean, or if you just did one. I mean, I guess I didn't really clarify. You can do hitter and pitcher or just pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, I just selected, when I was looking between, hitters and pitchers, just what was the best season, right? And I went with Ted Williams, 1941 season. Batted 406. Basically he led the league in almost every hitting statistic imaginable that year. He played in the same division as the Yankees, of course, and that was the year that DiMaggio had the hits record, the streak. So, he missed the Triple Crown by 5 RBIs that year, which would have just been an amazing feat. But first of his 6 batting titles, because he won again in 42, 47, 48, 57, and 58. Finished second in MVP voting that year to Joe DiMaggio. And DiMaggio batted 357. So, I mean, just a phenomenal year in batting, really offensive categories across the board. And, he did win the All-Star game that year with a walk-off home run in the ninth inning. So, pretty amazing year for that guy, being his third season in the majors. So
Yeah, I mean, we lost some of his prime to war, so we forget about that, which that takes
3 years.
3 years out of his prime. It's just unbelievable that season. Charlie and I were talking about that this week at work, and I mean, what a time to be alive for baseball fans to see two of those seasons in the same season. Just to be a spectator watching that or hearing it, because a lot of times I believe the radio was very popular then for games. So just to be able to hear those games, I'm sure people were tuning in every night to hear what was going on. All right, I'm gonna go. We'll start off with the pitching route. I'm gonna go the pitching route first. So my pitching route. Oh, by the way, Phil, were you done or did you have a pitcher?
I think he said he just had a hitter.
Okay, he had a hitter. Okay, so I'm going the pitching route here. And the pitching route for me, I'm going Pedro Martinez's 2000 season is the best pitching season of all time. Now, I know some are going to say Koufax, some are going to say Gibson based on ERA, strikeouts. I took kind of everything together to put as my favorite. Pedro Martinez in 2001, 18 games that season, had a 1.73 ERA, and he had 284 strikeouts that season. He led the league in ERA, shutouts, strikeouts, ERA plus, FIP, WHIP, hits per 9, home runs per 9, and strikeouts per 9. I mean, that is a lot of categories he led the league in. I know we discussed WAR and, what WAR means when you're comparing players, but his 11.7 WAR is otherworldly for a pitcher, and it led the American League. All those numbers are made all that more impressive by that is right in the heart of the steroid era when he did this. So the next highest ERA that season after Pedro was Roger Clemens, had a 3.70. So you're talking about the next lowest ERA was almost a full 2 runs higher that season. Only 5 pitchers in the American League that season had a higher ERA than lower ERA than 4. That season, hitting put on a show. There's 47 hitters with 30 or more home runs, and 53 qualified batters hit at least 300 that season. And let's not forget, he did it in the American League with the DH. Of his 29 starts that season, he went at least 6 innings or more. At least 6 innings in 27 of them, and struck out 10 in 15 of them. So that season to me is impressive. I know Bob Gibson had a 1.12 ERA, but I feel like at that point it was a pitcher's game where Pedro was doing this in a hitter's game during the steroid era. So to me, that's more impressive. I did have the one originally, but let's not forget also, and people are going to disagree with this one. I'm sure we'll have people comment, but I think Barry Bonds' season in I believe it was, what year was it? 2001 is one of the best seasons of all time. 328 batting average, 73 home runs, 137 RBIs, 122 runs, 515 on base percentage, which I can't even fathom that. 411 total bases, a 12.5 WAR, 177 walks. How about this one? An OPS plus of 259. He was twice as good as the average player that year and more. So I'm sure we'll have arguments about steroids and PEDs, but that's still, you got to hit the ball. You still got to have hand-eye coordination. I mean, I get it. The home runs take that out, but look at the walks and the on-base percentage. I mean, that's like somebody playing MLB The Show and turning it down to easy or super easy or beginner. I mean, that's a cheat code to me. So any side thoughts on these? I mean, do we have any disagreements? Do we think that one of those seasons, any counter argument to any of our choices? No
counter arguments. I think, probably everybody would have all of these players in their seasons on a list, right? I think it's just the preference of our individual. What do we think is the best? Because, I definitely looked at, everybody's seasons that we talked about on here today. So,
yep. Even old Haas Radborn. Nobody's going to beat that record ever. You're never going to get anybody close to 60 wins. So, first of all, starting pitchers are never going to hit that for the simple fact that nobody pitches more than 35 games. And relievers definitely aren't going to get you 60 wins. There's no way. Even the best relievers aren't going to eclipse anything more than probably double digits at most. So that record, it'll never be broke. You can put it up there with some of those other ones that, like Ripken's, that are never going to get broke ever. So, all right, we're going to go to our next topic, and that was, I believe that was Charlie's.
Yeah, so I just had kind of predictions, thoughts, maybe brackets for the World Baseball Classic, to see what, maybe some takes that you guys had for it. And then if we want, I know I made a bracket. I don't know if we wanted to maybe, keep those secret for now, or if we want to talk about our brackets.
I don't know if I got time to fill out a bracket. I know I did pick out my dark horse and, some surprising teams and some breakout players that I have on there that I'm really excited to see. But maybe we hold off a little bit on there because I would like to, I'm kind of in the middle here. I do want to talk about it, but I do think we wait on matchups and go over the rounds as they come along. We can talk about who's going to win or who we're going to win. That's not a big deal, but let's leave predictions for future weeks if you don't mind.
Sure, definitely do that.
Who do you want to start with on that one, Charlie, or do you want to start yourself?
Just I had a couple dark horse teams that I think will be fun to watch. I think the Netherlands will be a really fun team to watch. I think, they always seem to put together a really fun squad that goes deep into the tournament. So, kind of look out for them. And then they're in I wouldn't say easy bracket, but in terms of brackets, I'd say, or in terms of their pools, I'd say it's one of the easier pools. So they should be able to get into the the elimination games and maybe make a push towards the finals. And then a couple other teams, I think the Venezuelan team should be a lot of fun. There's a couple obviously pro players on there. They've got Miguel Cabrera, who's about to do his farewell tour for the MLB, and then they've got Altuve at second base, and I think that should be a really fun team to watch. And then the Mexico team should also be a lot of fun to watch. Although I will say that they are in my opinion, probably the toughest pool. Having the USA, Canada, Mexico, Colombia all in the same pool should be a fun pool to watch.
Agreed. Any flat out predictions for who's going to win?
I think the easy, obvious answer is Dominican Republic, because they have not only probably the best lineup, but probably also the best rotation in the entire thing. But I think maybe a couple dark horses. I mean, I don't even know if you can call the USA a dark horse, because at this point they're kind of the second favorites behind Dominican. But I think Japan and Cuba could also be some teams to look out for to win the whole thing.
Phil, you want to take this one second?
Yeah. I think it's easy to sit there and say that the Dominican is the team to beat. They do really have a stacked team right now. I look at it as, US, I think it's a great team, but I'm kind of concerned with their pitching. You've got a couple older veterans that are in the rotation. So you've got, Wainwright and Kershaw, which if we were talking about those two pitchers in their prime, they could definitely lead Team USA. I think they're a little bit in the hole there in that one compared to some of the other teams out there, but they do have, the top tier star players that could carry them for a series or, through an elimination game that maybe some of the other teams couldn't. I'm pretty high on Japan. I just think Japan always has a great team. They have solid pitching, solid defense, speed, team chemistry. Puerto Rico is kind of similar in many regards. So I'm sure they will perform very, very well. I'm interested in Cuba. I think having the MLB players now on the Cuban team is going to be an interesting thing. So they could definitely be, a dark horse that makes it a little bit farther maybe than they're predicted to, just simply because they're getting some of that major league talent from around the world to join their, homegrown players. So, I mean, you know what, I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, we might even have to have like a watch party, maybe even do like a podcast, go out and try to catch some of the games and so we can get some input, or even just do a video where we're not even doing like the podcast. We're just talking, about the game as it's happening would be kind of like a fun idea. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that my dark horse pick, if I'm going to go besides the two favorites, is Japan. For starters, your 1-2 punch is pretty solid. I know some people are going to say, obviously, it's not as good as the Dominican Republic, but let's not forget that Yu Darvish and Ohtani are fully capable of handling some of these lineups. And let's not also forget that, and I apologize in advance because I'm terrible with pronunciations, Roki Sasaki, who some believe he's one of the other, I believe, starting pitchers in there. Ohtani, they believe that when Ohtani did the interview and he said he's not the best player on that team, they believe he was referencing Roki. They also have a pretty good outfield with Lars Nootbaar, Masataka Yoshida, and Seiya Suzuki. So, I mean, like I said, they got a pretty solid team. Now their infield, a lot of people might not have heard of some of their players, but I think with that solid 1-2 punch, and the outfield looks pretty solid. I think they could be a dark horse to really compete and maybe surprise some people. But obviously, the two favorites, as you guys stated, are the Dominican Republic and the United States is a close second. I mean, the amount of talents on these teams are off the charts. I mean, you have pretty much all-star teams that that they're putting out. I mean, there's talent at every position. So my other team, like Phil said, he kind of took my thunder, is the team to watch out for is Puerto Rico. Their team includes Diaz, Stroman. You have a plethora of talented shortstops, including Baez, Correa, Lindor in the infield. So my guess, if I don't know how it's set up. I don't know if I've seen anything, but Lindor short, Correa third, and Baez second would be my choice. Players who I'm looking for to have a big impact on the WBC, Julio Rodriguez, Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, Roki, as I stated, and my homer pick is Luis Robert. I'm interested to see how he does for the WBC. And then, of course, all eyes are going to be on Shohei Ohtani with every at bat. So we all know that that's what everyone's going to be itching to see. But it'll be great to just get some baseball. This is that time of year where I'm just twiddling my thumbs, just patiently waiting, wishing that I had constant year-round baseball to watch. And right now, unfortunately, that's just not happening. So,
Yeah, Cuban leagues every once in a while get exciting.
Yeah, they got Venezuelan games going on right now. And one thing I was going to ask you guys on like a sidebar is, what do you think about Acuna's home run celebration? What were we thinking about that? Was it too much?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty funny. To me, it's, as somebody who plays baseball and has played baseball, like a walk-off in general is the best feeling. Walk-off home run especially is the best feeling. And I think we talked about that before on maybe one of the episodes. But, I mean, it's I don't know. It's a fun feeling. And so, like, I don't know, let them celebrate. And if the other team, if they don't like that, then maybe don't give up a home run.
It's always been my feeling. Phil, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean it's a game, right? So it's a spectator sport. People want to see that sort of reaction. So only the fans of the losing team don't like it. So
yeah, I mean, they were saying that it was, I believe, 19 to 20 seconds it took him to round the bases. He did celebrate around every base. But let's not forget, a lot of historical people like to say, oh, well, the celebrations. Let's not forget that I can't remember his name. I want to say it was Joe Nuxall. He had his 100th home run. He rounded the bases backwards. Like he ran backwards. Like he went to first backwards, second backwards, third, and home. So, I mean, in last year in the playoffs, I didn't hear anybody complaining when who was it from Philly hit the home run, I believe against Strider, and he took like 30 seconds to get around the bases. Is that Hoskins?
I think it was Rhys Hoskins. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it took him about, I want to say 30 seconds. That's actually the longest it took to get around the bases last year. So I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it took place in Venezuela. It's a different game down there too. So, I mean, I'm all for excitement. If you don't like it, don't give up a home run. I'm along the same lines in that mindset. Totally agree. Last topic is Phil's topic. Do you want to tell us what your topic is, Phil?
I wanted to talk about just the Hall of Fame. We had the results come out this week, and I figure there's some good conversations to be had. Kind of look for a little bit of reaction from everybody. But what I wanted to speak to was the two inductees for 2023. We had Scott Rowland voted in. He had 76.3% of the votes, so he was the only one to get inducted through the writers. And then you had Fred McGriff, who entered with the Contemporary Era Committee earlier in the year last year. So Rowland's first year on the ballot was 2018. He started with 10.2% that year. It was a crowded ballot, a lot of future Hall of Fame players on there. And it seems like those players falling off kind of let him pick up some movement and eventually get in himself. You know, he did benefit from a bit of a shift in Hall of Fame voting by that for rewarding, stellar defense over metrics that don't necessarily reflect the player's entire skill set. He did win 8 Gold Gloves during his 17-year career, and he won them with the Phillies, the Cardinals, and the Reds. Just the 18th third baseman in the Hall of Fame. Himself and Chipper Jones, they're the only full-time third baseman who began their careers after 1982 to be voted in. So third base, definitely, has some room for growth in the Hall of Fame. He had a 70.1 WAR for third baseman, which ranks 10th all time amongst third basemen. He was 1997's National League Rookie of the Year. He received MVP votes in 4 seasons. That was in 98, 01, 04, and 2010. So he did it in 3 different decades. It's pretty amazing to think about. Went to 7 All-Star games. He did win a World Series with St. Louis in 2004, in which he batted .421, had 3 doubles, a home run, 2 RBI, 5 runs on 8 hits versus Detroit. So, that was definitely his best postseason series. And then when you get to Fred McGriff, received 16 votes from the 16-person committee, was the only player of 8 to make the cut of 12 votes. And some of those players that were on were Bonds, Clemens, Schilling, Mattingly, Dale Murphy, Albert Bell, and Rafael Palmeiro. And again, the Contemporary Era Committee is made up of Hall of Fame players, MLB executives, and veteran media and historians. So those were the people that voted McGriff in. And I think that, kind of could lead to a little bit of discussion there as well. They'll convene next in 2025 to consider 2026 players for induction. So that'll be interesting to see next time. McGriff spent 10 years on the Hall of Fame ballot from 2010 to 2019, and he topped out at 39.8% in his last year of 2019. In 19 seasons, he played for the Blue Jays, Padres, Braves, Devil Rays, Cubs, and Dodgers. So he was in a lot of big markets there. He was a .284 hitter. He finished with 2,490 hits, 493 home runs, 1,550 RBIs, and then 1,305 walks. Only 12 players had achieved this combination by the time of his retirement. And only Bonds and Palmeiro are not in the Hall of Fame. So you can kind of see, the type of player that Fred McGriff was. A 5-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, won the 1994 All-Star Game MVP, hit a tying 2-run home run in the 9th inning off of Lee Smith to end up winning that, in which the National League did win in the 10th inning. Won the World Series in 95 with the Braves. Batted .303, 10 home runs and 37 RBIs in 10 postseason series. He joins, Chipper Jones, John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Bobby Cox, and John Schuerholz from that team in the Hall of Fame. And then the one thing, that really kind of stinks about McGriff's career is he did lose 60 games during his peak, during his prime time of playing with the 94 strike. So surely he would hit, his 500 home runs if that would have been the case. And then, last thing, kind of wanted to talk a little bit and see if anybody had any thoughts on this. But, Todd Helton finished with 72.2% of the vote. So he just missed the threshold, 11 votes short. Otherwise, he would have gone in the Hall of Fame this year as well. Billy Wagner finished with 68.1%. Andrew Jones finished with 58.1%. Sheffield was 55%. Carlos Beltran's 46.5% in his first year. And then Jeff Kent had 46.5% in his final year. You had A-Rod with 35.7% and Manny Ramirez at 33.2%. So, just to maybe talk a little bit about some of those players, if we think they're going to make it or if not. And then another thing to consider here, possible candidates for 2024. Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, Chase Utley, David Wright, Matt Holliday, Adrian Gonzalez, Jose Bautista, Jose Reyes, Victor Martinez, and Bartolo Colon. So, again, with the results we saw this year, and then with the players coming on next year, I'd just like to get everyone's thoughts and see kind of what does the 2024 Hall of Fame look like.
Just got a quick question while we close up yours. Do we believe that Fred McGriff was aided by Tom Amansky? Do you think that helped him with his Hall of Fame career?
I don't think so.
Because if you were a kid and you didn't see the Tom Amansky baseball video late at night with Fred McGriff throwing balls into a bucket, then you're missing out and you really need to watch YouTube.
I think the one thing that you don't probably realize it unless you were there watching it was just consistency. I mean, he hit 30 home runs and 100 RBIs this season. And when he started, that was a time when 30 home runs was, considered a lot of home runs. I can remember in my younger days just thinking that for sure he was the person that would challenge, for the all-time home run record, just because he did it year after year after year after year after year. So
I think
those videos helped.
Yeah, they
I
definitely.
don't think they got him to the Hall of Fame.
He gets overshadowed a lot because he was consistent, but he wasn't putting up the numbers that the steroid guys were. So he kind of flew under the radar while they were hitting 50, 60, and eventually 70 homers. He was still only hitting 30 quietly. So I'll take this one second if Charlie doesn't mind. I'm going to get straight to the point. The voting process for the Hall of Fame needs to go. There's no consistency. First of all, you have guys who have ties to PEDs, guys who have tested positive for banned substances in the Hall of Fame, yet you're refusing to let players with the most Cy Young awards, the player with the most home runs in the Hall of Fame. So there's really no, what they're trying to say for certain people, they're letting certain people in, and other people they're holding to different standards. As far as it comes down to it, I believe, in my opinion, Todd Helton and Andruw Jones should have both been elected to the Hall of Fame. Helton had more runs, hits, doubles, home runs, walks, a better batting average, on base percentage, and more total bases, and a better OPS plus than Scott Rowland. He had 3 gold gloves at a position that isn't highly regarded for his defense. And then when it comes to Andruw Jones, he had more home runs, RBI, stolen bases, and total bases than Rowland. And as good as Scott Rowland was with his glove, he didn't have as many gold gloves as Andruw Jones. And for all the people who say that gold gloves are a popularity contest, you're right. But if anybody who saw Andruw Jones play knows he's one of the greatest defensive center fielders of all time. So both those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. One of the things I believe that's holding Helton back is what I refer to as the Coors effect. Todd Helton has obvious better numbers at home. This includes almost a 40% swing in batting average. But I'm going to give credit to White Rose Baseball on TikTok for sharing this information. Let's not forget, it's really hard to play on the road when you play 81 games at Coors Field. Some players get sick from the changing altitude after adjusting to Colorado air and then trying to be an athlete in a different environment. And let's also not forget that breaking pitches also look so much sharper when you're used to playing in Colorado air. So let's not forget those type of things either. And there has been people in Colorado who haven't put up the numbers that he put up either. So that's another argument. And lastly, for Billy Wagner, he's one of the greatest left-handed closers of all time, if not the best. He should be in. Comparing him to Trevor Hoffman, another Hall of Famer who pitched around the same time. What if I told you Billy Wagner had a better ERA by half a run, more strikeouts even though he played 2 less seasons, a better ERA plus by 46 points, a better whip, less hits per 9, and more strikeouts per 9. Trevor Hoffman has a better WAR, but only by 0.3, and he played 2 more full seasons than Wagner. The only thing I believe that hurts him is he doesn't hit that threshold of 1,000 innings for relievers, which he missed by 97 innings. One word, ridiculous. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Next year, I believe, when we kind of talk about I have 2 people who I believe are going to make it next year, and that's going to be Adrian Beltre and Todd Helton. I'm done. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I'll agree. I do think that like the Hall of Fame, it just to me always seems really weird that we look at like a guy like Todd Helton, like you're saying, and like after this year, we're like, oh, well, he'll be in next year. But it's like, well, his stats haven't changed, so why isn't he in this year? To me, it's always like and it's been like that forever, so it seems kind of normal. But to me, it still just makes no sense how you can, like, even like we look at some of the new guys coming in, like Beltran, we're like, oh, well, he got 46% his first year, so he'll probably get in like, 4 or 5 years. Well, it's like, well, his stats aren't changing, so why is he not in now, but you think he's going to get in later, even though nothing's changed? So to me, that's always been really weird. I did a little bit more on a couple of the players that are coming in for the 2024 season or class. I also agree that I believe Adrian Beltran will get in there. He got the 3,000 hits club with almost 500 home runs. I mean, to me, those are really great stats. What really helped him is he played for a full 21 years, and that definitely helped him out. Joe Mauer, I don't think will get in his first year, but what he does have going for him is he has a lot of awards and accolades. He was obviously won an MVP award, 6-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glove, 5-time Silver Slugger, and 3-time batting champion. So those are some, big accolades that will help him hopefully get in eventually, but I agree. I don't think he's going to get in the first year. And then a player who I was kind of surprised me about his stats was Bartolo Colon, and how, in my opinion, I don't think he will get in, and I don't think he deserves to get into the Hall of Fame. His ERA, his career ERA is 4.12. And his WHIP is 1.3. I mean, those are pretty average numbers when you look at it. But really the only like big numbers he has for him is he has a bunch of wins and a bunch of strikeouts. But again, he played a full 21 years. When you play 21 years, you're going to have inflated stats like that. So in my opinion, Bartolo Colon shouldn't get into the Hall of Fame, and I don't think he will.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And does anybody else want Adrian Beltran's plaque to have Elvis Andrus' hand on top of his head, or is that just me? I want that.
Yeah, that would look good.
He just so much fun for the game. But go ahead, Phil. I saw you were going to say something. You had a thought.
Yeah, no. Well, I think I was going to just say, if I were to predict who's going to make it in, I'm with you guys. I think Adrian Beltre does make it in as a first year. I think Helton, makes it in just because there's not a lot of other, really in his peer group. And then Billy Wagner possibly could if you had 3 people go in. If not, I think it's probably Helton and Beltre. But you got to remember, Andruw Jones wasn't even the best Jones on his own team, right? And Billy Wagner, while he was a great closer, I still think that, his struggles to get in just because he wasn't a lockdown closer. You got K-Rod, who's going to be on his second year, on the ballot. So it'll be interesting to see. But was anybody else surprised by Carlos Beltran's results? I was a little bit.
I wasn't, because me and Charlie had this conversation, and what really hurts him is his tie to the 2017 stuff. Charlie, you want to elaborate more on that? Because you're an Astros fan, so you know more about what we talked about.
Well, the rumor was that he had taken the system from another team, and he was the one that tried to implement it for the Astros, and he was the one kind of behind the whole camera in center field and then the relay system. And so he was kind of the whatever mastermind behind that was the rumor. And I think he was actually about to get a job as the Mets head coach. And then after the 2017 story broke, they didn't want anything to do with him. So yeah, that was pretty much the whole story, was that. And the rumor is maybe from the Yankees, as he stole or took, kind of their camera system in center field and then implemented it for the Astros.
Yeah, so I believe that's what hurt him, Phil, personally. I think because to me, I would think he would get 60. You know what I mean? Without the issues, I would believe he would be maybe second or third ballot, in my opinion. But I think
he has the numbers to back up to be a little bit higher than he was. But I think you're right. The scandal breaking kind of maybe dropped him about 15 to 20 points. But I think eventually, I think he'll be his 4th or 5th year he'll get in.
All I can say is I'm very grateful he went.
I was just surprised he got 46.5. So I thought that it would impact more than that.
Thank God he went to the Mets in 2005, or with him on that Astros team. If he was still with the Astros, it might have made a difference, because either of all those games in that World Series in 2005 could have went either way. I mean, White Sox won them all, but Astros were in every single game that series.
It was a really, really competitive sweep.
All right, I do have a side note for you guys. I'm going to give credit to another TikTok account for he had a live video that he was talking about MLB awards and what he thinks of them. So I want to get your guys' opinion on this. This is credit to Daily Dose of Baseball on TikTok, who brought this up in his live. Do you guys value MLB awards when considering how good a player is? For me, I think that All-Star games, Silver Sluggers, and Gold Glovers are popularity contests, and just like WAR, you cannot use them solely to gauge a player's greatness, but you can use it combined with other things. Do you think that there's a better way to vote for these things? Any idea on how to change the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the awards, especially when you look at like Silver Slugger, Golden Glove, I think those need to be a little bit more like statistic based. Because you looked like, well, I think it was this year Juan Soto was a finalist for Gold Glove, but like statistically one of the worst fielders in the league. So in my opinion, they do need to kind of start rooting it a little bit more in the actual analytics and the actual data. Versus, I guess, like it seems like now it's a more of an eye test and more, like you said, more of a popularity thing. Like who do they like? And you know, even at a certain point, it's like, all right, who played really well this year but didn't get an award? Let's see if we can get them an award, kind of thing. So yeah, I do agree. So, although I will say some of the awards, like the MVP award, I do look a little bit like, you know, if somebody has an MVP, that does to me show that they at least had one elite season of baseball, and probably, you know, therefore probably a couple other years of pretty good baseball, and same with the Cy Young. You know, generally, you know, if you're good enough to get a Cy Young, that means you put together at least a couple good seasons of pitching.
Thoughts, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, most of the awards that you're speaking to, I would look at as padders, right? They pad a great career. There are a lot of popularity, you know, players that get these awards. It suggests that they need to change it to make it so that it's done by the players. If the players determine who are the best at their positions, you know, who are the best hitters, these things, you know, if they have a voice in it, I think it's better than just kind of selecting somebody, you know, to your point of who, you know, who didn't get an award this year. Let's give them something to make them, you know, look good. So, you know, they're nice to look at, but the numbers speak for themselves. You know, I think everybody knows if you talk about a certain player and say they had X amount of Golden Gloves, it's probably a player that you know was a great defensive player, regardless of if they had won those Gold Gloves or not. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
So again, credit to Daily Dose of Baseball for this stat, but I'm going to give you a stat line in 2000, right? When I get your point about MVP being elite in something, but I'm going to give you a season on there, and I want you to tell me where this guy placed, and then I'll tell you who he is. Okay, so this guy had an 8.9 WAR. He had 216 hits. He had 147 RBIs and 42 home runs. He walked 103 times, had a 372 batting average, a 463 on base percentage, a 698 slugging percentage, and a 1.162 OPS plus. Where do you think this guy finished that season? If you had to guess, I'm talking about MVP.
In MVP,
I mean, just by those stats,
number two,
top three. But
what if I told you he finished 5th that season in MVP voting? The winner that year in MVP voting was Jeff Kent. He had 33 home runs, 125 RBIs. He batted .334 with a 424, 596 slugging percentage, and OPS of 1.021. All those were better for this guy. This is Todd Helton's 2000 season. I think he should have won. I think it was a travesty he didn't win, but that's why.
What did the Giants do that year?
Giants in 2000, I'd have to look. I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll bet you the Giants were more competitive than the Rockies.
Let's see here, 2000.
First field effect.
And you got to think the top two players both came from the same team in MVP voting. So if you know Jeff Kent is one, you know who the other is. The other is Barry Bonds.
Yep. Bonds is the other.
Let's see. So the San Francisco Giants won their division at 97-65. They finished 11 games ahead of the Dodgers. The Rockies were 82-80 that year. But my argument to that is Andre Dawson has an MVP award and finished on a dead last place with the Chicago Cubs, would do the argument in the other direction. He has an MVP award for a last place team.
Yeah, but that was when nobody hit 49 home runs.
And he walked up to the Cubs with a blank check and said, "I want to play for the Cubs. Just fill this in."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
just don't make me run. My knee
Mike
can't
Trout,
handle it.
Mike Trout has also won a few MVPs while playing on a pretty bad Los Angeles team.
It's just a good argument both ways. That's again why I love baseball, because there's no wrong answer.
And you could find the same thing with Cy Young too. Like there's so many times great players should have won Cy Young awards and finished like third, fourth, or fifth over the person who wins it. You just scratch your head, you know.
So hopefully next week we'll be going live when we have our group again. Justin had a pretty decent topic that we're gonna hold off until next week for, but I'm kind of excited for. We'll hear about that next week, and we'll be going live finally, hopefully, unless Justin gets sick again, which we hope doesn't happen. So any last thoughts from you two? I know I gave my thought just before we close it up. I didn't say hopefully he was going to get sick either. I said hopefully he's not sick, just to clarify that. Not hoping anybody gets sick. Anything on your guys' end? Any last thoughts, questions you have out there? Guys are always so quiet by the end. I feel like I talk about it.
No, I don't have anything.
Phil?
Hey, Rick, I got something for you. And Charlie, you can feel free to jump in if Rick can't figure it out. But, you know, we were talking about Fred McGriff in the 1984 All-Star game. Can you tell me the player for the National League who scored the winning run in the 10th inning of that game? Just to put a little context to it. This player slapped a single over the pitcher to get on base before he scored.
It's not Barry Larkin. No, it's either Tony Gwynn or Barry Larkin. I can't tell if I've got the answer right or if he's frozen in shock.
Charlie, do you have a guess?
For the National League, what year was it?
94.
84.
Not 84. He said 84. But
well, your guess is incorrect. One of the players is correct.
What are you talking? One of the players who scored?
94.
That's what I said. 94.
I said 94.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I don't think it was Moises Alou.
My only guess would be like Hank Aaron or something like that.
Hank Aaron in 1984? He'd be like 80.
Oh, well, not Hank Aaron. Who am I thinking of? I have no idea who I'm thinking of. But it wasn't
It's been
Hank
a
Aaron.
long. So let me think here real quick. So I'm trying to think who would be on that All-Star team. So we all know Tony Gwynn was on the All-Star team, I believe, in right field. Bonds was probably on that team in left. Phil dropped off. Maybe we'll never know the answer to that
Guess
question.
we'll never know.
We'll see if we can hold off until he gets back. But Charlie, if you can look that up real quick to look up the roster, I'm pretty sure Bonds was in left. I mean, I don't know if he was finishing out that game. I know that Gwynn was in right. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who the catcher was on that team. I do know Larkin or Ozzie Smith would have been the shortstop.
That's probably what I was thinking of. I think I was thinking of Ozzie Smith.
And then you got you probably had Sandberg at second during that time.
No.
Nope. Do we know who it is? Who is it? Because I can't tell. Phil's still frozen. No, he's not. He's back. Who was it?
Yeah, you had the right idea.
Who is it?
It's Tony Gwynn.
That's what I said. Said Tony
Yeah,
Gwynn.
he said Tony Gwynn. He said two players.
Yep, Tony Gwynn. And at the beginning, I said it's
Tony
easy.
Gwynn.
Good stuff. Good stuff with the not 84, 94. I was gonna say that'd be really impressive if Hank Aaron. That'd be such a great
It would
career.
be pretty cool.
I'm just kidding with you, Charlie. Yeah, I think that's good stuff. I'm really excited for this upcoming year as we inch closer, and can't wait to see the World Baseball Classic has in store. And it'll be exciting to get some baseball and some spring training going and build up that excitement. Even though the White Sox news just keeps getting worse and worse, I still think we still have a chance. So. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week for our first live version of the podcast. Come ready with your questions on there. We'll cross our fingers everyone's there. Come with some questions that we can answer. And we'll have, as always, our topics for that week. Everyone, have a good rest of the week. And thanks for joining.